Hey guys, what is up? My name is Kaylee. Welcome back to my channel. We're doing a reading vlog. So this week is technically it's 10 days, a buddy read along, like a group read along hosted by Julie over at Pages and Pens, who I'll have linked down below. There's a hashtag on Twitter to tweet your thoughts as you're reading. I'm loosely following the buddy read. Mostly I'm using it as motivation to actually read the book, which is A Little Life by Hanya Yanagihara. This is quite a chunker of a book, and everyone I've ever heard talk about it has loved it or not been able to finish it. Not because it's not well done, but because the topic is very, very hard and emotional. So I wanted to, when Julie talked about it, read it when I had the motivation to do it because other people were doing it and a page breakdown was put up, etc. I'm totally not following the page allotment because I figured I wouldn't have the time to complete the pages suggested per day, which is about 75. And again, like, the text is quite small and the paragraphs are quite long. It's a lot of conscious thought and less dialogue and action, but I can't put it down. So I got an ebook copy from my library because it's much easier for me to read around my kids with that instead of holding this giant, not super floppy paperback. You can see that I have far exceeded the page count for the day. So that said, I am on page 155, so I think I'm probably past where I'm supposed to be tomorrow. I tend to read less on the weekends just because all three kids are home. I'm doing a lot of explaining before saying that I think this vlog will be spoilery because at this point the two books that I'm actively reading right now are incredibly old publication date wise, and so I feel like we could do a spoiler vlog. I went into this book completely unaware of the plot line, just knew people's emotional reaction and response to it, and I think that it served me well. So the story is about four guys that are friends from college and how they intertwine with each other. It more focuses on one character, at least in the pages that I've read so far, Jude, who has a very secretive past that has led him to be the person that he is today. And still 150 pages in, I've only gotten glimpses of it. What we know about him in the beginning is that he has leg pain and has trouble walking. He needs a cane. We know that he's closest with Willem, who is a kid that also Jude is of unknown lineage. Like, they don't know what his race is, like where he's from. Willem he kind of has a sad backstory too. We have two other characters, JB and Malcolm. Willem is an aspiring actor and he is like the most good looking one, and then JB is an artist, and is it Malcolm that's gay? One of them is gay, one of them is black, one of them is biracial, and then Jude has no origin that they know of, but clearly they can't just look at him and say like he's white or whatever, so it's never really said. So it's kind of them and their slice of life so far, but we're spanning many, many years. So at this point, I'll go into spoilers because I can't really say much more without spoiling it. So we know that, I mean, you've heard about it, and if you're watching this, you've probably read this book already, that it's a super emotional book. So far, it hasn't broken me yet, even though I've read a lot of really rough things. It might be partly my mental state, like I'm doing okay, and partly it's not an incredibly personal topic for me, but if you're watching this because you want to be spoiled and you haven't read it, there is a lot of abuse, from religious entities. There is a lot of self-harm, a lot of cutting, a lot of suicidal ideation. And that's all from one character, that's all from Jude's perspective, and it's very, very rough. You are starting to get at the point that I'm at, the last like 100 pages or so, not 100, probably the last 60 pages are basically just about Jude, and you got little glimpses into his life post the turn of his life, which was when he got in a car accident, and we still don't have a whole lot of information about that, but I only just started getting glimpses of his childhood before that, where he was orphaned and he was brought up by Catholics in, what is it called? monastery. They did not treat him well. They abused the shit out of him. It's alluding to the fact that he was sexually abused as well. It doesn't really come out and say that specifically, though they do talk about how he is probed and checked when they find out that he steals things because his kid's got no life. So that's like the most that they say it on page, but it's alluded to that he was just abused in every fashion. And that kind of lends a hand to why he is the person he is today at 30, which is a broken human. And then he got in a car accident when he was 15 or 16, and that's how his spine got wrecked. So he has like really bad nerve problems and he's in pain a lot of the time. And he cuts himself to cope. Yeah, his life is really sad, like really, really sad. And I knew from the very beginning, within the first 40 pages, that this was gonna be a story centering around Jude. And I mean, my prediction, because if you're watching this, that's what you're here for, right? Is to watch me slowly melt into a puddle over this, that he's going to actually successfully kill himself at some point, and it's going to be the aftermath of the guys dealing with what they could have done differently. That's just my assumption. That's what I think will happen, but I don't know. I haven't been emotional reading it, but I'm feeling emotional like reflecting on it, so I'm sure we'll get there. It's really, really well written. I really love the flow of it. The pacing seemed like it would be slow, but it doesn't feel slow. It's not too above, I don't want to say the average reader's head, but like I feel like some people gravitate away from books that seem too smart. And this is definitely one of those books that can read a little too smart. And I've looked at a few definitions for words used because I've never heard of them, or I've heard of them so infrequently that I have no idea what they mean. That's where we're at. The writing is very well done and the story is obviously sad, and I'm excited. Excited's not the right word, but I am looking forward to the experience of the rest of this book. I am 22% through. My goal had been 10% today, so as you can tell, I am reading it basically every chance I get. I really thought that I would struggle and it would take me more than the 10 days to read it, and I feel like I'm jinxing myself right now saying that, that it will take me that long, but we'll see. All right, that said, I'm moving on to the next book that I'm reading. This reading vlog, which was kind of like a last minute thing, because if you watched my TBR for March, you know that I just started The Shadowhunters World by Cassandra Clare. I finished book 1. So my friend Jake over at Jake Reads Books, I will have him linked down below, reached out and was like, hey, I read that book forever ago. If you want to read book number 2 together, let's do it. And I was like, well, I have the audiobook if you want to do it right now. So we're going to work our way through City of Ashes by Cassandra Clare. I listened to, 64 pages today. So a couple chapters. It was like 3 chapters in the prologue. And we don't really have a time frame or any like goals or anything like that, because A Little Life is going to take precedence and I am listening to it on audiobook. So it's mostly when I'm like doing chores and stuff, but it picks up where City of Bones left off, with a little bit of time in between the two. It seems like just a little bit at this point. So we're kind of at the point where Jace is trying to figure out where he stands with himself now that he knows who his father is, and him and Clary are kind of like still kind of weird around each other because they have this like bond, but also they have the past before they knew their bond, and it's weird. And then like poor Simon is hanging on by a thread with Clary. So that's basically all we've really tackled so far in the 3 chapters that I've read, and I'm excited to see what happens in this trilogy. I intend to read it in the order that Cassandra Clare herself has suggested, which is the first 3 of this, and then jump over to the Infernal Devices trilogy, and then come back to finish the last 3 of the Mortal Instruments, and then I don't know what comes after that, but like that's what I own, so it'll be fine to get through it in that order, and then we'll tackle all the other books that exist within this realm if the next 9 books go well. It sounds so daunting, but I actually am flying through it. I really looked at these books on the shelf and thought that they were going to take forever, but the text is not. It's YA, so it's kind of flying. So that's it. These are the 2 books that we'll be discussing for the remainder of the vlog. And I'm hoping to have like a full week, give or take a day or 2, based on how fast I can read A Little Life. We'll wrap it up when that's done. So it could be shorter, it could be longer, but we will see. Also, Sal, one of my subscribers, what's up, asked about my hair routine and about the dye that I use and that kind of stuff. So I will talk more about that later because my sister is my hair professional. She is a stylist professionally, so she does everything. So I have to get the information from her because she uses professional grade level hair color that I can't just like walk into a store and get, which that kind of sucks. I'm sorry that I can't tell you anything more than that. But yeah, that's it. It is Friday. It is 5:20. My husband's going out tonight. My kids will be in bed in an hour, 2 hours. I'll have the night to myself, but I don't think I'm gonna read. I think I might like watch some really crappy TV that I wouldn't regularly watch if my husband was home. So I will check in with you later. Bye, bye, bye. Alright guys, it is Sunday now, so I didn't do any updates yesterday because I wanted to read a good chunk of material before I expressed more opinions about it, so it is now Sunday. I've got kind of a busy day ahead. My daughter's sick, I've got groceries, so I don't know how much I'll read today, but I am well ahead of the schedule in A Little Life. I will get to this in just a second because what I wanted to do really fast is, I mentioned in my previous clip that I've been asked about my hair, so I'm gonna go through like a very quick explanation of the dye I use and the products I use and etc, etc. So if you're not interested, fast forward through this, but otherwise I have very, very long hair. It is also very, very thick, so I was blessed with thick hair, which is both a blessing and a curse because it takes forever to do. And you guys have seen my natural hair, which is very curly in some places, very wavy in others, and straight in others, so it's a whole mess of things. And you can see how thick it is as is. I did a poor job straightening it this morning, but also I cut off, I'm sure you've seen it before, I'm getting caught in my can you see if I turn? I cut off a few inches worth of the back. I shave it close. It needs to be done right now, but that's how thick my hair is that I literally take a chunk off and I still have way too thick hair. So, products I use. My sister is a hair stylist, so the dye that I use is salon grade, and I don't think you can get it commercially, but it is by Guy Tang. I'm pretty sure unless you have like a cosmetology license, you cannot access it yourself. So I know she uses 2 different colors, one like 90% one color and like 10% another color, and then some kind of pink activator to make it as red as it is when it's first dyed. I also am very lucky in the fact that red really sticks to my hair. So this, I haven't dyed this, I don't know when, probably January, and it is now March 8th. So like my hair fades very slow in red and only red. Like if I do purple, purple fades within like 2 weeks, and I wash my hair 2 to 3 times a week because it's so thick. Also, I don't use anything. The shampoo I use is dermatology shampoo because my hair is so thick. I get a lot of itchy scalp because it just retains moisture, and you know I work out a lot, etc. So literally my hair washing guidelines are from my doctor. So some people think it's gross when you don't wash your hair every day or every other day, but this is what my doctor told me. So it helps with having to only straighten it or curl it or whatever once every 3 days, which is nice. That said, so the Guy Tang hair dye, and I would say that I probably dye it every 4 months, maybe more if I'm not lazy or I feel like it's up to me and my sister because she has a job and kids and I have kids and our schedules are, you know, all over the place. But some of the products I use regularly, if I want to wear my hair just naturally and I intend to have it like that for days without doing anything like straightening it or curling it, I use Shea Moisture's Curl and Style Melt. Just right out of the shower, I just scrunch it into my curls, and that way it kind of tames the frizz of my hair drying, air dry naturally. So that's the product I use for that. If I intend to straighten it or blow dry it, I very rarely blow dry it. It takes so freaking long for my hair. I will use one of these 2 products, which are my sister's recommendations. It's a 10, so there's the Miracle Styling Potion as well as the Silk Smoothing Balm. This I'll use if I intend to curl it. This I'll use if I intend to straighten it. And then, last but not least, to try and keep some of the deadness out of my hair or to like tame all the flyaways up here, I just recently got this Trader Joe's hair serum, which is coconut and shea butter, and I use that very sparingly because otherwise it gets very greasy. And also lastly, my face oil, which is squalene, 100% squalene from Biossance, 100% plant-based, vegan. The other 3 things are not tested on animals, and I believe Shea Moisture is not tested on animals either. Yeah, cruelty-free. I can't guarantee the veganness of the cruelty-free ones because that's just the world we live in. Beauty standards are very different in terms of what is vegan and what cruelty-free really means in terms of parent company ownage and whatever, you know. I do my best is what I'm telling you. This is the only one I can guarantee is vegan. This I use on my face as a moisturizing oil once or twice a day. And then when my hair is really, really, really dry, like in the winter, I'll use this on just like the ends. I'm also really bad at cutting my hair. So like I cut my hair maybe twice a year, even though my sister does it because I am lazy. So that's why my hair gets super, super long. So that's it. Specifically, Sal asked about it, so if you have any more questions, let me know. But other than that, that's kind of the long and short of my hair, and I've been talking about it for quite a bit, so let's talk about books now. Also, at this point of the book, I don't think that I'll be able to talk about it without spoilers, so know that going ahead, that if you're listening to this part of the vlog, then you might be spoiled for things both in A Little Life and in the Shadowhunters second book, City of Ashes. So, A Little Life. I am 42% through. I think today the goal is about 30%, so I'm ahead of the curve, which I'm okay with because I would like to squeeze in Crescent City this month, which hadn't been planned. So if I can get ahead of the curve, then I can read Assassin's Apprentice, then I can read Crescent City. So, A Little Life, what to say about it? We're getting a lot more into the individual storylines outside of Jude. Jude is still the central character, that everything kind of revolves around. The friendships revolve around Jude. The dynamics of the 4 people split apart. So JB is the artist, and he, at this point, we found out that he is a drug addict. He smokes crystal meth and does like an assortment of other drugs. Him and Malcolm have kind of become the dual friendship, whereas Willem and Jude have always been like a pair. Willem will take Jude's side through everything, always has, always will. But there's a moment that those friends, the 3 friends, try to intervene with JB and his drug addiction. And in that moment, you know, he's fighting it because that's what you do when you're addicted to something. And he gets really pissed off and he does an imitation of Jude's limp. Now, there's this whole thing where Jude has tried to hide so much of his past because of what it's made him and how embarrassing it is to be the person that he is. His whole fear in life has been that the people he loves the most see him as this, like, atrocity. JB basically confirms it in that moment, and that's a very big turning point in the guys' relationships. And they're adult, like, fully adults. They're in their late 30s, I think like 39 at this point. When this happens, it's the turning point in the group's friendship because Willem takes Jude's side and Jude can't bring himself to forgive JB. JB got it from the guy that like has brought drugs into his life in the first place, and he had previously made fun of Jude in front of JB, and it was just one of those spur of the moment things that you can't ever take back and you can't ever fix. The moment was I'm focusing so much on that in all of what I've read because it was one of those moments for me that very much explains how complicated both humans are and relationships amongst humans are. There are just things that happen in life that every party regrets having happened and wishes that it could be taken back, time reversed, and you just have to suffer the consequences because that's not how it works. And the complexity of the moment of JB's brain doing that and actively while he's doing it wishing that he could stop himself from doing it, and Jude being unable to forgive him for exposing the Jude that Jude is afraid everybody sees. And in the long and short of it, it's none of his friends believe that truly about him. They care about him way more than any of his physical disabilities or even mental struggles. But once something like that happens, it's hard to focus on anything else. So Jude's dealing with the aftermath of that still, and his way to cope with it is to cut himself. And at this point, his cutting is so bad and has been so bad for so long that he doesn't really have fresh skin left to cut. So he is now cutting through scars, and it's just making it all worse. It's a very complicated thing. Now that they're all adults, they're all successful in their own right. Like, Willem is a successful actor, and Jude is a very successful lawyer, and JB is a very successful artist, and Malcolm is a very successful architect. So they all have money, and they all are living lives pretty happily, except Jude, who kind of puts on this mask still. The part with Harold and Julia adopting Jude was incredible, but also very sad, because Jude just doesn't have the ability, the capacity to understand that he deserves good things in life because of how much trauma he's been through. I mean, it's been forced into his head that he's basically an abomination and he doesn't deserve happiness and he deserves to be lonely. He'll take care of himself regardless. He's very stubborn. I'm very invested in it. There are times when I'm a little bored reading it because it is very highbrow, I feel like. It's very, if you've ever read any Donna Tartt, you've read similar styles in terms of like vocabulary choices and sentence structure and how in-depth into the characters themselves we get and their inner monologues, and it's a lot more inner thought than it is outer dialogue and action. So at times it does kind of feel heavier and dragging than I anticipated. And I still don't have any really like idea or presumption of where this is headed. Like I said yesterday, I think that the culmination of the story is going to end with Jude successfully committing suicide, how the others are going to have to deal with it. But also I'm not really sure. And I'm only basing that off of, one, it's the center focus of the story is Jude and everything that he's gone through and how he copes with it still at age 40 as a full adult. But there's all those side stories, and everybody that has read this has talked about how hard it is. And I can't remember who it was, but I was watching someone talk about it and how they never finished the last few chapters or the last chapter because it was just such an emotional toll. And I don't know if it's because things start to go really wrong, like maybe JB overdoses. I don't really know. We'll see in the future, but I don't yet feel that kind of emotional bond that I think that it's going to break me. And watch me eat my words when I get to the second half of this book and it starts getting worse and worse, because that's what I've heard happens. But I can't see how I've handled the first half of this book, the first almost half of this book, becoming even worse, because we've been through a lot. Obviously, I think I've said in the beginning of this reading vlog that there's a lot of triggers. I mean, anything you can think of. This is not the book for you if you have any sort of emotional reactions to literally anything. They've tackled pretty much anything you could think of in this book. I'm sure there is more yet to come. But I don't know, we'll see. I don't know why my emotional connection just isn't there yet. I like Willem a lot. Fun fact, I do have a stepbrother named Willem. I care about Jude a whole lot because he's very tragic and I do like tragic characters. But that's it. That's the update I have. A lot happens, but also not a lot happens. And there's definitely some weird time jumping within moments. Like you'll hear something will be happening present day and then you kind of flip to like a paragraph about the future, like how that moment has affected something that happens later, and vice versa. You'll be in the present and then go to the past to visit something that happened that correlates to what's happening right now. From the hashtag on Twitter, I feel like a lot of people are struggling with that, but because I'm ahead, even on day one I was significantly ahead, I feel like those are things that are to get used to. So that's it for that update. I'm already at 15 minutes, so let's quickly talk about City of Ashes. I don't know how far in this is. Probably about 30% through. I'm still enjoying it. It's still entertaining. The thing I didn't think, this is going to be a spoilery comment too if you haven't read the Shadowhunter series. I didn't expect, when I read the first book, I knew about Clary and Jace, so it didn't bother me, but I didn't expect then in City of Ashes for them to still have like longing for each other despite knowing now that they're related, like not partially related, like their mom and dad are the same people. So there is a scene last night where like in order to get out of this place they were in, Clary had to kiss the person that she like most longed to kiss, and poor Simon's like, all right, that's easy, and the woman's like and then she has to kiss Jace, and it's like, I don't know, man. They're like 15 and incestuous. I know that it was okay knowing that going into City of Bones, and I think that's why I enjoyed it, but the fact that it's carried on, I didn't realize that it was still like a thing that would carry through. I figured once they figured out that they were related that shit would stop, but it didn't. So color me shocked is what I'm saying. Other than that, same old story, like things are progressing and Valentine is still being a villain. Jace is trying to come to terms with the fact that Valentine's his dad, and Jace is struggling the most, which is funny to me because Clary is the one who got thrown into this world when her mom disappeared and had no idea about her upbringing and the fact that she could see this otherworldly stuff and all this other things that never existed to her for the first 15 years of life, but yet Jace is struggling. And ain't that something? The girl's like, yeah, I can handle this, and the guy's like, but my dad. That said, that's it for my updates. I'll check in again either tomorrow or the next day. I'll put some distance between now and my next update so that I can read a good solid chunk, and I don't know how much I'll get done today. So I'll either see you Monday or Tuesday, and I hope that you guys had a great weekend. By the time this is up, it'll be way past the weekend, but I hope future you is doing well. All right, I'll check in later. Bye. I'm about to take a bath and give myself a moment. I got my AirPods to listen to City of Ashes because I need a little bit of a break from A Little Life, because Jude is my baby. I don't care if he's a 40-year-old man, but Caleb can choke. Before this day's over and the sun fades, I didn't give myself a break and I read some more in the bath, and right now I'm on a chapter where it's in Harold's perspective, and he is finally giving us the information about what happened to his son. I didn't realize he lost his son so young, so it is hitting pretty hard with me. He is 5 and dying, and I have a 5-year-old and an almost 7-year-old and an almost 2-year-old. My son will be 2 this week, actually. And this one plot point is very pervasive in my mind, and I keep thinking of it, so I wanted to talk about it out loud, and it is that there are two things. It's that, one, all of these characters are very intelligent and from the surface probably look like they have everything they could ever want in life. They're mostly successful and rich and good-looking-ish and relatively well off, but every single one of them has such a sad story and lives such a sad life, and I guess that's probably the point of this whole book, is that these very otherwise surface happy people have a lot of problems, and it's more than that. It's those very diminishing words for what I'm trying to get across, but you just never know. You know, what we want in life is success and happiness, and I don't think that one begets the other. That's an interesting thing, and also the thing that keeps hitting me is how each character can't shake their past in terms of their own emotions. So like with Jude and Caleb, it's a very obvious one where Jude has lived a life of abuse and neglect and being diminished and being told he's disgusting and less than, and so he finds a man to be with that tells him the same exact things and treats him the same way after years of running away from it. And then in the same sense, you've got Harold, who lost a son, his only child, to a sickness that he had no control over, and then many years later in life adopts another sick and dying child, now an adult. And it's a very fascinating dynamic to see these characters, no matter the time, no matter their life changes, always fall back into the same rhythm of being who they are. They can't run away from it. They are just the people that they were born as. And that's not saying that you can't change facets about yourself and be better and improve as a person, but these people are very kind and intelligent and good people, and they can only run so far from who they are. And I think it's very fascinating. And that's all I wanted to say right now, because I am going to try and finish this chapter about Harold's son and then call it a night with this book, because I don't think that I want to read it before bed. So it is now 6:30 and dinner time, and I'm gonna go do that and try and finish the chapter before the kids go to bed. Okay, that's it. What are we doing right now?
We're baking.
What are we baking?
We're baking a banana cake, but it's different.
It's different than the last one we made, right? Is that what you're saying? What's different about it? You don't know? We are making it from scratch. The last time we got a box and all we had to add was oil. This time we're making it from scratch.
Yeah.
Because you want to be a baker, don't you? Mm-hmm. You doing a good job?
I'm gonna be a ballerina.
You're going to be a ballerina baker? I thought you also wanted to be a teacher. Maybe you could teach ballet and baking.
No.
Oh. All right, we'll fix that. All right, say see you when it's done.
See you when it's done.
Hey guys, kind of a disheveled mess because it's been a long day trying to decide whether we should keep the kids home from school with this whole coronavirus thing, and I'm not going to get into it on this channel because you know what? We're all in it and we don't need to focus on that. We need escapism right now, in my opinion. So let's move on to a quick update. It's Thursday. I am 83% through A Little Life. I don't have my bookmark in the right place, but I haven't updated in a couple days because I've been slowly working my way through it and I've taken a few breaks from it, in which I finished City of Ashes by Cassandra Clare, so I'll get to that in a second. But it's heavy. It's very, very heavy, which is why I took some breaks, but also I feel like, I don't know if this is an unpopular opinion because I haven't read any reviews on it. I specifically went into this book blind, but I feel like it is going on a little bit too long for my taste anyway. I tend to think books that are above like 600 pages are too long, generally speaking, and this book it also falls into that category for me. I feel like it's getting kind of redundant in the story arc instead of just moving forward. I'd rather get less of the relationship nows. First, I should say that in the beginning of this, the first 40% of the story, I kept thinking, am I crazy or is this going to become a love story between Jude and Willem? And I kept thinking that it was just in my head that I was making this story more than it was. So for them to get together, it was a benefit to my heart. So I'm really, really happy. And I knew that it'd be very complicated, but the love they have between each other was just unparalleled. So I'm glad they did that. But since then, the conflicts, the issues that they faced together within their relationship were important and needed to get worked through, but I feel like it got a little repetitive and we could have focused more on Jude telling his stories from his childhood and less on the repetitiveness of Willem having to fight himself about his feelings about Jude's cutting and how closed off he still was and how little he knew about Jude. Obviously important things that needed to be addressed, but I feel like as I keep saying it, I'm being redundant, but it was very redundant. So I've slowed down. I was reading about 10% a day and I'm a little bit behind at 83% in that. No, I'm ahead. I don't know. I can't math. I don't math. I read. So that said, unless this book really blows me away in the last 17%, I can't see it getting more than a 4-star. Those of you that have read it, you might be laughing at me already. I guess we'll find out when I finish. But it is definitely heartbreaking, the things that Jude went through and experienced, and now that we found out that not only did he deal with what he dealt with at the monastery and then with Brother Luke, then for him to do so much on his own accord to himself just to get where he was going to Boston and to accidentally stumble across somebody else who used him. His life is just on, I don't know. I don't even know what to say. So it's been a hard read, but I've gotten choked up. I haven't really been shattered yet. So maybe it's coming, or maybe it's that I've been told so much that it's going to shatter me that it hasn't shattered me. I don't know. Regardless, that's where I'm at for this. And I will tell you a little bit more about City of Ashes. I'm going to hold off on reading City of Glass until April for the OWLs because I haven't fully committed to a career yet, but most of the ones that I'm considering have transfiguration as a necessity for my OWLs, and that includes shapeshifting, and there's shapeshifting werewolves in this storyline, so I'm going to save City of Glass for that to cover that topic. So I finished this. Jake and I will have him linked down below. Obviously, I've mentioned that already. We're loosely buddy reading it, but like I kept meaning to take breaks of from A Little Life and listen to this on audio instead because this is a lot lighter of a story. Yes, it's still fantasy and there's murder and all that stuff, but it's not. It's not this. So I finished it this morning. I haven't even checked in with him yet. I know that the last I checked in with Jake, he was at chapter 9. So we've basically been talking about characters and who we like and who we don't and why and that kind of thing. I like this one. I liked how it ended. I am looking forward to seeing what happens next. I do find Clary and Jace relatively annoying, and I'm trying to keep telling myself that they're very young. I feel like they read 18, 19 a lot of the time, but they're 15 and 16 if I'm not mistaken. So like their actions and their responses to things are very much their age range, and I have to keep reminding myself that. My favorite characters are Alec and Magnus Bane, so that's interesting because I'm pretty sure I know very little about this because I've never really followed Cassandra Clare and her work before. That Magnus Bane has its own, like the Magnus Bane Chronicles or something like that. So I'm excited to get into that later. But yeah, this is fascinating. It furthered the storyline. I did check in with Tabby at Keeping Tabs. I'll link her down below as well. A friend of mine that really loves Shadowhunter Chronicles. Isn't that what they call them, right? And I asked for spoilers about the Jace and Clary storyline since I knew about the reveal in the first book, but I didn't know the validity of it, and I was questioning it throughout this whole book because the way that the two still continued to thirst for each other was starting to take me out of the story. So I did get that spoiled for myself, as well as Jake knew, so he also informed me. So yes, those two friends of mine on BookTube both were very kind and made this book a lot more enjoyable because of that information. So that's it. That's the end of what I'll say today. I'd like to say that I could wrap this up by tomorrow, end of day, and make it just a 7-day reading vlog, but I don't have that kind of faith in myself. It is my son's 2nd birthday today, so I'm about to go downstairs. We're gonna make personal pizzas and then have cake and open his gift. I won't get much reading done for the rest of the day. And then tomorrow, if we do keep the kids home from school, even if we don't and the schools close, eventually it's gonna be harder for me to read more because when they're all here, I don't get as much me time. So we'll see how this pans out. I do intend to vlog through the owls like I did last year, like do weekly vlogs and keep you updated. I like to pick a more challenging path because I tend to read about 10 to 12 books a month, and most of the owls top out at 8 or 9 prompts, except for the hardest of the hard. So I don't intend to do those because then it bites me in the ass for the newts. I'm trying to put it together because I have a bunch of books that I really want to read, but a lot of them don't fit the prompts, which really sucks. So see you in the next one. Alright, we're closing out this vlog early. It is Friday the 13th, and that means that it took me exactly 1 week to read A Little Life. I finished it this morning, so like, let me apply my clown makeup right now because last night, I believe the last update I gave was that it wasn't emotionally impacting me the way that I expected to, and then I went downstairs and read more and cried. I don't think I said this in any of my previous clips, but I did discuss it with my husband one night when I was telling him about the story. I kind of kept him sort of updated on the plot points without going into too much detail, and I had said to him at some point that the only way that I see the book breaking me near the end is if instead of Jude dying as expected, that Willem would die unexpectedly, and so I broke. It made the most sense plot-wise and story arc-wise for you to be drug along with Jude his whole life, and then for something that unexpected and unfair to happen. And I think it was a good way to close the story arc, or start the end of the story arc. When Jude finally does what he does at the end, and the fact that it's told through Harold's perspective, I thought that was beautifully done. And I think that I did cry a little bit during that explanation as well, but I think it was less out of sadness and feelings of being morose. It was more of a relief cry, because I think that whew, I didn't realize it impacted me this much. I think that Jude lived a longer life than he needed to, against his will. This could get like controversial, I suppose, but I'm all for euthanasia of humans, choosing the right time and place to go. And I think the pain and suffering that that man endured his whole entire life was too much and too unfair for any one person to handle. I'm surprised at how long it took post Willem's death. 3 years is a long time to live for other people, but his whole life was lived for other people, theoretically. I'm really stuck between a 4 and a 5 star. I don't think for me that it was a full 5 star. As I've said previously, the redundancy of the life was a little bit too much near the end. I think that could have shaved off a bit of it. Probably 4.5 stars, so I'll round up on Goodreads and end up giving it a 5 star. I'm pretty sure. That's as much as I can say about it right now because I'm getting apparently really emotional. It's a very high emotion day, as anybody watching this probably knows, about the virus and the state of emergency that was just declared and all of the fallout from that. And my kids are officially home from school indefinitely. My public library is now closed until at least the 30th of this month. All of the park districts are closed. I keep telling my husband, like, this is the first time as an adult that something super adult has happened. Like, I keep thinking like there should be an adultier adult than there is right now in my life, but I am the adultier adult, and we have to handle this for our kids and for ourselves, and try and isolate as much as possible, which is hard. We are a very much a family that sees our families relatively frequently, almost weekly, and we're gonna have to cut that off for a little while just for the sake of everybody. And it's weird. It's super weird, and I hope that you guys are all doing really well and that you're staying safe and keeping up with your own health and making the right decisions for you and your families and the people in your lives, mostly for you, and that you are getting some books read, at least taking some time for yourself. The one thing about this is that everybody's going through it. It's not isolated to one state or one country, so we're all in this together, literally. That's it. This is the end of the vlog. It was it didn't go anything like I anticipated. I finished 2 books this week, one incredibly thick. How many pages was this? Over 700. And this is a lot different in terms of typeface and all of that, but we're looking at 453. This week I will be starting Assassin's Apprentice by Robin Hobb. I do have the audiobook, so I did start that just a second ago. I just took a bath and read the first of 19 parts. It's reminding me a lot of The Lies of Locke Lamora by Scott Lynch. It starts out with, like, theoretically an orphan boy that gets put in the care of other people. Things happen, so we'll see how it goes. And that's for the Elderling Along, which I talked about in my March TBR. And then the one book that I didn't anticipate getting this month, actually I'd pre-ordered it, and then when I was trying to save money I canceled the pre-order, and then I ended up getting it anyway, but I got it in person, not on Amazon, so I feel better about that, at least. Crescent City, House of Earth and Blood by Sarah J. Maas. So this is the book that I intend to actually physically start, hopefully tonight. And I'm looking forward to it. This was not on my TBR. I don't know. I mean, I may read more and I may read less. With the kids home, it's a crapshoot. So we'll see what happens. That's the end of the vlog. Again, I hope you guys are doing well. I hope that everything is chill where you are and you're staying healthy and safe, and yeah, try not to be too scared. Do your best. And this is a very, like, lackluster way to close a vlog, but it's been a very weird couple months, hasn't it? So I'll see you in the next one, guys. Stay tuned for my OWLs TBR. I did put it together and I'm pretty sure it's solidified, so that'll be coming soon. And I still have to, hopefully at this point, my February wrap up is up, but if not, that'll be up soon too. I'll see you in the next one, all right?